Everything begins with a battle between the protagonist and an ogre, which gets hit by an arrow in its head. The protagonist, who was on top of the creature, calmly jumps to the ground after striking it. The ogre falls from the powerful blow. The protagonist is a level 93 archer named Ian. While holding his mighty arrow, he receives the message, "You have defeated an ogre. 5,910 experience points have been received." The protagonist thinks about gathering 100,000 gold and resting for a bit, but suddenly notices the creature beginning to move. Ian stays alert, waiting to see something through the smoke covering the monster. He manages to see a large creature with two heads. The ogre Ian just defeated has transformed into a two-headed ogre, becoming even more powerful. The ogre, now holding a club, starts to attack. Ian notices the weapon's movement and quickly dodges. The protagonist realizes he survived thanks to his agility skill. He receives the message, the remaining time for the agility skill is 1 minute. Ian isn't pleased to know this, as he is now facing an even more powerful creature. Dodging the creature's powerful attacks, the protagonist knows he needs to end the battle in under a minute. Gaining a few seconds, Ian uses the inventory window before the creature starts its attacks again. Seeing he has only one trap left, he has no choice but to use it. After setting the trap, the protagonist begins to draw the ogre's attention toward it. Seeing the creature leap to strike him with its club, Ian knows he has to hit the monster at the exact moment. Even a delay of 0.01 milliseconds would mean death. The protagonist watches the ogre's club approaching, waits for the weapon to get as close as possible, then dodges. The creature misses the attack again and falls into the trap as Ian had planned. The message, "High-level stun trap activated. The target will be stunned for 5 seconds and will be vulnerable," appears. Seeing the ogre practically immobilized, the protagonist activates the critical attack boost skill, the snipe skill, and the focus skill. Now fully prepared, Ian fires his arrow and watches his powerful attack pierce the ogre's chest, sending it flying. The message, "You have defeated the two-headed ogre. 9,500 experience points have been received," appears. Ian celebrates his victory and approaches the fallen creature to see what items it dropped. Approaching the message, "You have received the Ogre Warrior's pauldron and Ogre Warrior's boots," appears. The protagonist is surprised by what he received, as winning a piece of the ogre armor set is said to be like winning the lottery. He even managed to get 2 pieces. Ian decides to sell those items because he could get at least 5 million won from the sale. The protagonist thinks that with these achievements, he has used all his luck for the month. Checking his inventory, Ian notices that he still hasn't finished looking at the items he obtained. Then the message, "You have received the Mlan crystal," appears. The protagonist is impressed by the acquisition of that item. Klan was the world's largest VR game, released 6 months ago. The game has over 10 million users currently, an extremely popular game that has practically dominated the entire video game industry. When the protagonist bought the virtual reality capsule for 10 million won to play Klan, using the money his parents gave him for school along with all the money he saved from working part-time, everyone told him he was crazy. Even though he started playing 2 months after the launch, the protagonist created the Archer character, which turned out to be very good. In just 4 months of hunting monsters with this character, he earned about 200,000 won per hour, making many millions in the game. A problem arises with the announcement of a large-scale update for the game, introducing a new region and 3 new classes: Summoner, Dark Sorcerer, and Assassin. All Klan players were excited about this news, but his friend didn't care since he would have to reset his current character if he wanted to create a new one. He had come too far to do that. After hearing his companion, the protagonist says that he will only hunt and farm items when the new region is released. This way, he should get enough to pay all his school fees at once if he gets lucky. That was the plan of the protagonist and his friend. The Mlan Crystal, an item that can unlock a hidden class in an NPC by changing classes, is, in short, an extremely valuable item that the protagonist was very lucky to have won. The problem is that it can only be used by characters below level 10 who haven't yet undergone a class change. The protagonist is furious for having received the item after so much time, now being at level 93. Additionally, the item cannot be sold. Otherwise, he could get any price he wanted. The protagonist knows he must reset his character if he wants to use it, but resetting his character even after making a lot of money leaves him unsure of what to do. He then calls his friend, who thinks it's crazy to reset his level 93 archer. For him, it would be a waste of point. His friend is outraged because the protagonist wants to throw away the archer character that was among the best in Korea, ranking in the top 1,000. Despite knowing all this, the protagonist says that resetting would be a chance to unlock the first secret class to explore the new classes, and he couldn't just throw away that item. The protagonist's friend says he should know a bit about the secret classes that were revealed, and if he also knows someone in their guild has the sniper class. The protagonist replies that he does. His friend asks if he thinks the sniper class is much better than the archer class. The protagonist responds that there is a significant difference between their levels, so he can't say for sure, but it certainly has some advantages over archers. The protagonist mentions that its range is ridiculous and the damage is also very strong, but shooting fast with a sniper seemed a bit difficult, and the biggest disadvantage would be not handling a lot of weak mobs very well. His friend, still upset, says that's exactly what he was trying to say. Just because a class is secret doesn't mean it's ridiculously strong. The protagonist replies that he knows this too. His friend gets even more irritated and asks why he would throw away his level 93 archer since he could easily earn about 1,000,000 won in a single day by hunting with that character. Laughing, the protagonist calls his friend by name, Hun, and asks what he wanted. Hun, confused by the question, responds that it's fun. The protagonist says that's the answer. He thinks the new secret class will be super fun. Hun, calling the protagonist an idiot, says he won't stop him in his decision and that he should do his best. The protagonist thanks him for the support and, on the same day before it gets dark, he returns to the game. Inside the game, Kalen, Ian goes to a vendor in a village. Asun, approaching the merchant, the man asks what he desires. Ian says he is looking for a rebirth potion. The man, with a convincing look, says he has come to the right place and shows a vial with a potion, saying he just received it. The protagonist takes the potion from the merchant's hand, who grabs him by the arm. Ian is frightened, not understanding why the man is doing that. The merchant says that when he drinks that potion, he will lose all the strength he gained up to that moment, with no way to go back. Laughing, the archer says that's why he's going to drink it. The day passes and it is now night. Sitting on the edge of a cliff, the protagonist looks at the potion and identifies it as the most expensive of the rebirth potions. If he's lucky, after drinking it, he could get better stats after rebirth. The vial contains the information that the rebirth potion is a potion created through alchemy. After drinking the potion, the character will be reset, and their level and all status points will be reset. The protagonist is optimistic and hopes to make even more money with the new class. Decided then drinks the potion. The message, "You have drunk the rebirth potion," appears. The protagonist starts feeling the magical effects happening, and the message, "Your level and status points will be reset," appears. The next morning at the training center in Trumbo, the protagonist is practicing sword strikes on dummies. The instructor thought it was impossible what one student was doing. The protagonist was training as hard as he could, which increased his flexibility after repetitive training, causing his agility status to increase by 1 point. Surviving a near-limit damage increased his vitality status by 1 point, and an extended period of meditation increased his intelligence status by 1 point. Seeing his status levels increase, the knights were impressed as a few days had passed, and the protagonist spent all day training. Some had never seen such intense training, showing he was an adventurer truly seeking strength. Focused on his training, the protagonist was already thinking about the next day, which would be when the update was released. Using his virtual reality machine, the protagonist enters the game after the iris scan is completed. The message, "Senor Ian, welcome to the world of Silent," appears. In the game, the protagonist decides to find the Summoners Guild first. Walking through the city, he finds the class change center for summoners. Ian opens the door and calls for someone. Hearing nothing and seeing the place appeared empty, he enters, looking for someone. The protagonist gets excited as he seems to be the first to arrive. He then climbs the stairs until reaching the room where the guildmaster, Kan Yan, is located. He tells the man that he wants to change his class to summoner. The master responds that the path of a summoner is not easy, having to tame fierce monsters, which is not something anyone can do. The protagonist awkwardly says that he knows all this, but for him, a good class is one that is difficult to train. The master agrees with the former archer and also says he has the qualifications to change class. The man asks one last time if the protagonist is sure he wants to change his class to summoner. Ian says yes and finds the right moment to present the Mian crystal he had obtained after defeating the ogre. The master takes the item and is impressed, as it is the crystal left behind by the hero of the continent Mulan. Ian gets excited to know that the master knew that story. With the rarity in hand, the man tells the protagonist he is a much more incredible person than he had thought. Laughing with happiness, Ian tells the master that he can now grant him the hidden class, but before that, the man asks if the protagonist could do him a favor. Confident, Ian responds that he could do whatever was needed. The master explains that a blue-eyed wolf appeared on the Hamud plain, and his son, who recently changed his class to summoner, said he wanted this wolf. So he wants Ian to capture the wolf. The protagonist is surprised by this request since a blue-eyed wolf is a rare monster above level 40. The protagonist begins to wonder why such a powerful monster was mentioned in a level 10 class change quest. Kane says he is busy with his guild responsibilities and couldn't do it himself. He admits it's embarrassing to say, but his son isn't strong enough to handle that creature. Therefore, the master says he will give Ian 5 magical sealing scrolls to weaken the wolf as much as possible and then seal it with one of those scrolls. He continues, saying that the wolf that appeared on the Hamud plain is young and shouldn't be very strong. The quest message then appears. Capture the blue-eyed wolf on the Hamud plain. The guild leader's son, Kane, said he wants the blue-eyed wolf. It is said that a young blue-eyed wolf appeared on the Hamud plain, so seal it and bring it to Kane. The quest difficulty is level, and the reward is the summoner monster Tamer class. Finally, it asks if he would accept the quest. Ian reads the message and is surprised to learn that the reward is a hidden class. Confident, the protagonist says he will capture the wolf no matter what. Kane thanks him and wishes him good luck. Before Ian leaves for the quest, the master says that if he doesn't succeed, he can visit him again for more help. The protagonist finds it interesting because the quest won't disappear even if he fails once. Ian then says goodbye to Kane and sets off for the Hamud Plains. The protagonist already knows that the monsters in that area are around level 10, the same as the blue-eyed wolf. Despite being level 10, his status points are close to someone at level 30, so he is confident he can complete the mission smoothly. Ian opens his map window and starts searching for the creature. Quickly, the protagonist finds the blue-eyed wolf. Ian begins to check the creature's status and notices that the wolf is at level 20 instead of 10. However, the protagonist doesn't find this a problem since his status points are high. He just doesn't understand why the master would have him fight a level 20 monster. Preparing his bow, Ian begins to wonder if the quests for hidden classes are always this difficult. The protagonist looks on the bright side, knowing he doesn't have to worry in killing the wolf with just one attack, as this could happen if the creature was at level 10. Ian decides to start the mission and points the arrow at the blue-eyed wolf in front of him. The protagonist shoots the arrow, hitting the creature's back. Noticing his presence, the furious wolf jumps over the rock where Ian was standing and starts running towards him. The protagonist realizes that if he hits a few more arrows at the monster, he will kill it. Before being attacked, he decides to fight the wolf using only his hands, so he punches it in the head. After being hit, the creature starts to become defensive. Looking at the monster, the protagonist knows he needs to hit it a lot, as the monster's HP must be reduced to a certain level before sealing it. After Ian lands 5 punches on the blue-eyed wolf, the creature is left lying on the ground. The protagonist then takes the scroll and tries to seal it, but the message "Sealing failed" appears. Ian starts reading the scroll and realizes he needs to hit the creature more, but he is sure that if he hits it again, it will die. The protagonist decides to heal it first to avoid the risk of killing the monster. Patting the wolf, he begins feeding it a piece of meat. After the creature eats everything, still weakened, Ian says that it is time for another beating. The wolf doesn't react anymore, and after taking another beating, the protagonist uses the scroll and tries sealing it again. The message, "The sealing of the blue-eyed wolf succeeded," appears. Ian celebrates that he finally managed to seal it and says to himself that a punch always works. Holding the scroll, the protagonist realizes he has lost a lot of time, and that many users have probably already changed their classes to Summoner. So he must hurry back to the Summoner class change center. The master is surprised by his quick return. He asks Ian if the quest wasn't an easy request. The protagonist responds that it really wasn't, as the wolf was very stubborn. He then shows the scroll and says he managed to seal it. The master is surprised to see that Ian managed to capture the wolf. The protagonist asks if there is any problem. Kane thinks it's incredible, as the first quest for the Monster Tamer class is designed to fail. But Ian succeeded, which is an impossible feat. The protagonist then wants to know if he can now become a Monster Tamer. Kane says no, as this class is unsuitable for him. Ian doesn't understand what the master is saying. The man asked the protagonist if he would like to follow the master's path. The message, "Master's Path." The leader of the Summoners Guild, Ken, is impressed with your potential. He wants you to follow the master's path, appears. Ian opens the window to view the quest and takes that path, surprised because he had never seen a class quest like that. The message appears, stating, "If you accept the suggestion, you will become a Master Tamer. Difficulty, moderate. Reward, Summoner class, Master Tamer." Finally, it asks if he would accept it. After reading the quest, the protagonist has no doubts that the class is far superior to a regular Monster Tamer. He decides he would like to take this path. The magic begins, and the message, "Your class has changed to Summoner Master Tamer, creating new affinity, taming, and leadership status," appears. The skill window shows Newbie Summoner Level 1, Proficiency % He has earned 500 reputation points. Another message appears stating, "The player has become the first Master Tamer." Outside the class change center, the magic of transformation was visible. The protagonist had now become a Master Tamer. He opens the inventory window, knowing the first thing he needs to do is tame a monster. Ian decides to tame the Crimson Wolf, which was the first trailer he saw. After making his choice, the protagonist descends the stairs of the class change center, aware that he is the first Master Tamer in Ceylon. Arriving at the plains where the wolf was located, Ian notices that some people had also converted their classes to the new ones and were also trying to capture the Crimson Wolf. The protagonist didn't think those people would be faster than him. Ian decides to join the group and waits to see how it will end. A group of 5 players attacks the creature all at once, trying to capture it. A woman uses a fire magic attack while the others wait for the monster's HP to get nearly 0 to try to capture it. A summoner-type player uses a scroll and tries to capture the wolf, but before the magic works, the creature starts to flee quickly, leaving the group of players trying to capture it in shock, as they had done everything they could but still did not succeed. The protagonist distances himself a bit from some players watching the capture and begins to think it would be a nightmare to find another Crimson Wolf if that one escaped. However, it was good because he managed to watch that capture attempt, realizing that it really would be difficult to capture a monster of that level. Ian deduces it would take a long time to find the wolf and thinks it's better to capture the first monster he finds. Walking through those lands, the protagonist was curious to know how many wolves he could capture with his leadership status. He then finds a group of 3 wolves passing nearby. With his bow, he begins his capture. After hitting a wolf, he leaves it stunned on the ground. The protagonist approaches and uses a scroll to capture it. Ian celebrates his first conquest while looking at the inventory. The message, "The capture of the wolf was a success," appears. The protagonist looks at the monster's information. A level 12 wolf with vitality of 75, attack of 23, defense of 12, agility of 19, intelligence of 10, beast type, normal rarity, shy personality, and unable to evolve. A normal wolf that lives in the pastures with fast paws and sharp teeth. Reading those monster characteristics, the protagonist is surprised to learn that the wolf has a personality, especially a shy one. Still not fully understanding, after reading that information, Ian sees another wolf approaching to attack him and decides to capture it too. The protagonist opens the inventory window. curious to know that wolf's personality. Ian is surprised to see that this monster's information is different from the previous one. It is an agile wolf, level 12, with vitality of 75, attack of 23, defense of 12, agility of 24, intelligence of 10, beast type, normal rarity, keen personality, and unable to evolve. A normal wolf that lives in the pastures with fast paws and sharp teeth. The protagonist notes that this wolf is at the same level as the other, but with higher stats and a slightly different name. After reading this information, Ian realizes that monsters of the same type and level can have different statuses. Standing on a rock, the protagonist sees a larger group of wolves approaching. With his bow prepared, he is also curious to know which of those wolves has the best stats. Ian decides to spend the entire day capturing wolves. Using magic on his arrow, the protagonist intends to attack as many creatures as possible, capturing and releasing the weaker wolves, keeping only those with the best stats. While looking at the information of the monsters he captured, the message, "Your affinity status has increased by 1 point after repeatedly capturing monsters," appears, and he also receives the title Wolf Specialist for capturing a large number of wolves. After much farming, Ian gains the ability to identify superior wolves without having to capture them, thanks to his Wolf Specialist title. The protagonist is excited to know this, as it will now make his work easier. Opening his inventory window to use his new ability, he thinks about why they didn't make this apply to all monsters, but after finding his new ability, he realizes he is asking too much. He starts testing the ability, using magic on his eye to see the level of a group of wolves in front of him. After identifying a level 12 wolf, he decides to capture it. The creature starts running towards him to attack. Ian finds it funny watching the monster do that, as he is just waiting for the wolf to get close enough to hit it using his bow. After leaving the wolf debilitated on the ground while using the scroll to capture it, the protagonist sarcastically said that the monster already knew its place. Looking at the monster's information, level 11 wolf, with 90 vitality, 37 attack, 15 defense, 19 agility, 19 intelligence, beast type, normal rarity, brave personality, and able to evolve, Ian finds it incredible that even though the creature is level 11, its stats are higher than those of level 13 wolves. Moreover, it can evolve. The protagonist then scares away the other wolves that were still around, as he doesn't need them and will focus on training the one that can evolve. After summoning the creature, Ian tells the wolf that its name will be Lee. The message, "It seems that Lee likes the name, and your affinity with Lee has increased, increasing loyalty by 5 points," appears. The protagonist is surprised to learn that his new companion has a loyalty stat. They start running, and Ian tells Lee it's time to hunt. Meanwhile, outside the game, Ryun is checking out the Lotos Guild, which had lost a lot of strength after his friend Jin-sung left, saying he would change his class to Summoner. Ryun could already imagine what he could be doing with it now, so he decides to research if at least the Summoner class is good in combat. After researching information about the Summoner class, titles like "The Summoner class is not absolutely trash," "Wow, this class is a joke," and "Don't become summoners" appeared. "I am a level 12 summoner. Here are my opinions after hunting," caught Ryun's attention. He decides to take a look at that title, which stated that the author had become a summoner as soon as the server update was released. The first consideration was that the Summoner class is very fun, but it has a significant disadvantage. It takes a long time to gain experience. The summons portion of the experience obtained slows down level progression. Some players shared their opinions, like, "The Fanatic Summoner just changed classes because there are only negative reviews." Dragon Catcher Tai Hun says to reset your character, "A Dark Mage is much better," and PT Esley 1101 says this class is a joke. Your experience is split among the all summons, so leveling up is very slow. And we'll see it in the next episode. Remember to subscribe and leave a like.